heart of this week's topic is the story of a simple decision made by an ordinary 20-year-old Egyptian Christian, which goes on to change the face of both the church and Western civilization. Around 270, the 20-year-old Antony came across Christ's command to the rich young ruler in Mark 10:21. Go, sell everything you have, give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me. Taking the passage to heart and motivated by a desire to seek God through a life of asceticism and prayer, Antony sells and gives away all he has. He begins to live in his village as a hermit, and by the way, that word hermit comes from the Greek eremos for wilderness. He then moves to live among the tombs on the village outskirts, and then further to an abandoned fort, and then even further into the desert to what was called the Inner Mountain, with its spring, date palm, and a small fertile patch where he grew grain for bread and vegetables for himself and for visitors. He begins to attract disciples and followers who settle a few days' journey away at Pispia by the Nile River. Antony occasionally visits them to encourage and teach them and to practice gifts of healing and exorcism. Twice he leaves the desert to go to Alexandria, perhaps to seek martyrdom under persecution under Emperor Diocletian, and later to support the opponents of Arius, such as Athanasius. In 356, Antony dies, reputedly over 100 years old. Antony's life launches a revolution. Athanasius, the champion of the Nicene Creed, writes a biography of St. Antony that soon becomes an international bestseller, influencing prominent Christians like Augustine of Hippo, whom we'll meet next week. Soon tens of thousands of Christians, including many leaders and bishops, are pursuing the monastic life. Some live alone, but the majority eventually form communities that become monasteries, stretching right across the empire, from Palestine in the east to Ireland in the west. The Western Roman Empire is on the brink of collapse during these years, and as social disintegration follows military calamities, a new role for monasteries emerges. During these chaotic centuries, when Western Europe is overrun by successive invasions of barbarian tribes, whose whole social structure presupposes a state of perpetual warfare, the monasteries become spiritual fortresses, strongholds for things of value, and fortified bases for missionary outreach. The real treasures that the monasteries preserve are their Christian learning and classical culture, to be in turn transformed by them into a Christian culture. The missions which the monks undertake bring the gospel to the very limits of the Western world, as far as Ireland, for example, where Celtic monks from monasteries head back eastwards to re-evangelize and re-Christianize Europe amid the ruins of invasion and civil wars. Eventually, from the ruins of the Roman Empire arises the new edifice of Western Christendom. But this remarkable story of the rise and impact of the monastic movement is the focus of this week's topic. Women are also prominent within the monastic movement, with many attaining important positions of leadership. And this raises the larger question of the role of women in early Christianity. So, in the second part of this week's topic, we're going to consider the changing role and the place of women in the early church. As usual, have a look at the discussion questions for this topic in the reading section below, and keep those questions in mind as you read through the lecture notes and the readings in your two textbooks, Hall's Doctrine and Practice and Stevenson's Creeds, Councils and Controversies. And once again, make sure you catch the webinar either on campus at St Mark's in Canberra, live online, or the recorded version, which will appear in the webinar section below. As always, please get in touch with me if you have any questions or concerns. I look forward to your insights.